Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Junkyard Digs. Today, we're back with my buddy Angus and his 64 F100 that we just pulled out of its grave after sitting for 9 years while it was 1 degree outside. Yeah. Today, however, we are in the new shop where we have heat and tools, and we are going to be working on getting this truck ready to hit the road once again. If you haven't seen part 1, you can check it out right up here. Like I said, we pulled this truck out of its snowy grave where it sat for 9 years at an abandoned Seventh-day Adventist school. Definitely a solid truck that's got a lot of life left in it. I'm going to hand the whole shop over to Angus where he's going to work on this while I'm editing part 1. And I'll be back later this afternoon. Good luck, sir. Appreciate it.
Can I use the new lift?
Oh, hell yeah, you can use that new lift.
Sweet. Typically, if you're parking your car on a lift, you put it in park. I don't have that, nor can I reach the shifter from here, so it'll be fine. It won't roll away.
He says as it's rolling away.
Oh no, it's escaping. So really simple with this bend pack lift. These are locking arms, so once the lift begins to raise, these will lock into place so they can't swing out on you. But while it's all the way on the floor, you can safely align it to where you need it to be. So for this truck, probably going to need the extension because this support comes really close to the rocker panel before this foot will come to the frame. Thankfully, bend pack included a couple of these spacers for each side. We'll throw those on. I'm going to do both in the back since a truck frame rail goes back and up towards the bed, and we'll see where that gets us. All right. Got that set roughly where we want it. I'm going to go to the other side and we'll start slowly raising the lift, make sure that it contacts the frame where we want to, and we'll start lifting. Cool. Back wheels are off the ground, front wheels are off the ground. About now is the time you're going to want to shake the truck or car. Make sure that it's not going to wobble right off if you take too much weight off, say if I was to take a tire off. Okay, well this truck appears to be made of a truck.
This lift appears to be made of America. God damn. Oh boy.
So, I'd say our brakes may be dragging just a little bit.
I'd say you're right.
Yeah, it's rusty, but it's not the worst I've ever seen.
It's actually really good, dude. Your floor pans are still mostly okay.
These earlier Fords, they didn't have a double layer bed skin, especially not right here, but more importantly over the wheel well, where you typically see newer trucks rust out. There's nothing to hold any sediment up there except for that lower lip. So generally it's in pretty good shape, just some surface rust. Something like this, oh my god, they used foam.
That's expanding foam.
Yep, somebody put expanding foam in there.
The foot tubs are still totally there.
Yeah, that is weird. Corners are pretty well gone. That one, nobody tried to foam it. Thank you. Foam doesn't help. Foam just fills, and then water gets in between the foam and the metal and just eats it. So that's kind of unfortunate, but oh well. Probably gonna have to address this floppy nonsense. As cool as it is, it's not the best for that header or the bolts that hold it on. So I think we'll probably wind up cutting these, adding a section of pipe after that, because man, I would hate to mess with those bolts. So I think while it's up in the air, we'll go ahead and grease all the points that we can reach with the grease gun, and take note of any that we can't reach.
and then
not do a thing about them.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to hand you the camera. I'm going to go edit episode 1.
Cool.
To get that out this afternoon. I'll see you in a few hours.
All right. Since it's cold in Iowa and the furnace won't shut off, it's right there. You're just going to have to bear with me through any background noise. So in part 2 of this video, we'd like to show you how to get one of these revivals from in the field to back on the road. Kevin's done a lot of videos on getting trucks and cars running and driving from their grave, but that's not the whole story. As I'm sure you can imagine, when you pull a car from its grave, there's usually a reason the car was parked there, whether it be bodywork, mechanical issues or electrical gremlins, you may not really know the true culprit. So the only way to figure those problems out is to start digging in and doing some basic maintenance on the car. In this truck's case, from what we gathered from the owner, he was driving it until he just lost interest in the truck. Either he got a new vehicle that he started driving more and more, or the truck was just not his style, or he didn't enjoy driving it. So for this pristine example of a truck, it should be a matter of just basic maintenance to get this back up and running down the highway. It's too good to be left in a field. So what we're going to do now that it's up in the air on a brand new bend pack lift is we're going to get under it, take a look at all the drivetrain, steering components, make sure that everything is fine in that respect. Alright, so the first step on any vehicle regarding suspension maintenance is to grease all the greasable points that it may have. On this truck in particular, it's got an I-beam front axle, which means the steering is based on a kingpin, which holds the spindle on, as well as a main tie rod that goes all the way across, and a drag link coming off the steering box. So the basic start is to just clean up all your grease points, get all the old crud off, and put new grease in these joints. Alright, so as far as servicing the rear of the undercarriage, it's basically just going to consist of greasing all of our U-joints, double checking that our shackles don't need grease, and working our way forward. So what we're going to do is just take a screwdriver, scrape off any excess grease or dirt that may be on the grease zerk, clean it off with a towel, then come back with the grease gun, fill them up. Now we're going to spin around. Okay, we have the entire undercarriage greased and inspected. What we're going to do now is I'm going to pop off all four wheels, take the drums off, inspect the bearings on the front, see if I need to order new wheel bearings for it or if I can just put new grease in them. And I'm going to inspect the wheel cylinders on the rear of the truck because I suspect that there is one or both of them leaking. The pedal goes all the way to the floor. There are no obvious leaks in these lines that I've seen at least. So I'm thinking that a wheel cylinder is going to be our culprit. While we're in there, might as well take stock of how the brake pads look, meaning the brake shoes, since it's drums on all four corners. We're going to take a look at all the springs, make sure none are broken, and take a look at the drums, see if any of them need to be either resurfaced or replaced. Alright, we're going to go ahead and pop this dust cover off. That'll give us access to a cotter pin, castle nut, and the first washer for our wheel bearings. I'm going to pull this whole drum off, including the wheel bearing assemblies, to take a look at both the bearings and the state of the brakes. Alright, now we'll pull off our dust cap, see what we're working with. A little bit of old grease, a little bit of corrosion on the castle nut there, but nothing you wouldn't expect from a truck that's been sitting for 9 years. So pull that cotter pin, take the castle nut off, take the outside bearing off, we'll take a look at it. Alright, so here's our outer bearing off of the driver's side front. You can see it's got a little bit of old grease packed up on it. Depending on how the other side comes out, may wind up still getting a brand new set of bearings because all in all, they're not that expensive and it's a good investment to make sure that your revival will carry on down the road for years to come. Alright. Well, she's dirty, that's for sure. I was fighting a bit of a bad bearing in the addition to some old grease. Looking at our spindle, I don't see any major signs of wear. There's a very, very small groove on the outer bearing surface, but that will be just fine. For some people, drum brakes can be a bit of a turn-off for a do-it-yourself project, but in reality, they're not that difficult to work on. There's plenty of videos on the internet of how to take them apart and how to put them back together. The most important thing to do when taking apart drum brakes, especially for the first time, is take pictures before, during, and after you get done to compare. Just in case you lose track of where you are, you need to stop and go do something else for a while, or you're just a forgetful person like I am. So, judging by the inside of this drum here, we may have a bit of a grease leak out of that seal. That's not a big deal, we can get a new seal. But our wheel cylinder appears to be in good shape. It's not leaking, may wind up replacing it anyhow, just since we'll be in here doing the pads, so we'll just have to see. Alright, so here we have the driver's front drum taken off of the truck. You can see I just cleaned up the inner grease seal, and down in there is our inner bearing. Oh shit, sorry. Who's making the noises?
Luke. Sorry.
Big Luke.
Oh no, it's the people who work here. So before putting wheels back on some old rusty lug studs, something you might want to consider is how you might want to get them back off in the future. For that, there's a really simple fix. Just get some anti-seize. Just a little dab will do her. Just a little, like half a brush stroke on each lug. That'll do it. That'll keep these lug nuts from rusting up solid and make sure that we can get this wheel back off when we do go to do the brakes. Okay, our next step is to change the oil in this. When we checked it out in the field, it was about a quart low and the oil was black. So we're just gonna drop the oil, put some new stuff in, make sure that we have some sort of additive with zinc, or make sure that the oil has zinc since this has a flat tappet camshaft. We're not gonna bore you with the process of changing oil, as I'm sure you're all aware how to change oil. While we were here, I just wanted to take the time to say that you do not need a 2-post lift to get your revival car back on the road. This is the first time Junkyard Digs has ever had a 2-post lift at its disposal, and we are sure as heck going to use it because it makes it a lot quicker to make these videos. Alright, so we're finishing up our oil change. I just dropped a full can of STP motor treatment in there that will provide us with extra zinc for our flat tappet camshaft. I'm putting some Marble Mystery Oil in because when I read on the forums and learned about their valve train issues, they said this can help free up valve guides, things like that, and I don't know if it works or not, but for $3 I figured might as well. We'll finish filling this up with oil, try and fire it once just to get all the oil where it needs to be, and then we're going to tear into a tune-up on this.
I'm back from editing the video. I just put part 1 out. You guys, so far, are really enjoying it, so that is good to see. I'm going to go ahead and take that carburetor off and get to rebuilding that sucker while Angus is doing stuff like things. What was the other shit we bought? Oh, spark plug wires.
Yep, I'm going to do the spark plug wires, put new plugs in this thing, take a look at the old ones, just see how it was running. Probably terribly. They're probably fouled because of our 2-stroke gas, but generally see if there's any damage, huge deposits, anything like that.
You know what I just realized?
What'd you realize?
And it may have been the fact that everything was potentially empty, but this thing doesn't leak anything. Like there wasn't a drop overnight.
No, it was just water, wasn't it?
It's just got so much life left in it.
I'm terrified. Like, that's great and all, but what if it's holding out?
Yeah, what's gonna go boom? We're gonna have it perfect, drive it down the road, 8 rods out the side of the block.
Ding, ding, ding.
Alright, we're gonna fire it up after the oil change. Angus is gonna watch for oil pressure. Give her a little bit of that there.
What?
What was that noise?
That was the wipers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they just like screeched.
They unfroze.
And I can't turn them off. Which one is it? He mouthed to me pressure behind the camera, and I was like, oh yeah, pressure. Went and looked, hovering around 0, and then just as I thought, that's a little low, it went, 65.
So I'm taking off the carburetor here, and if you remember from episode 1, our accelerator pump was absolutely frozen. It works now. And I can hear it moving fluid. What the hell?
That diaphragm's probably still gonna go.
Oh yeah,
it's soon, so.
And the power valve shot, for sure. So we'll pull her off and give her a full rebuild. I should probably start heating up the pine saw now.
That's a good idea.
Oh boy, that looks like a fun time.
Yeah, it'll be easier from the bottom. The only reason I'm doing this one from the top is this is cylinder number 1. And since we're replacing plug wires, I want to make sure I get the order right. So I want to know when the engine is at top dead center on the compression stroke of cylinder number 1. So I can make a mark on the distributor what post it's pointing at when it's at top dead center. Because that way I don't need to trace all the plug wires back to the distributor through that mess at the back of the block. I can just wire them in one by one, knowing the firing order.
While Angus is going through setting his firing order to make life easier later, I'm gonna pop this carburetor off. So I'm about to rip this carburetor apart over here, get our new carb kit in. I've got the pine sol warming up. Pro tip, if you're trying to warm up 12 liters of pine sol quick, throw one bottle at a time in the old microwave for 5 minutes, and then dump it in, let it soak, refill, dump it in. You can get that whole 12 liters up to temp in about 15 minutes, 20 minutes instead of like an hour and a half. As for this, we've all seen it 1,000 times. If you haven't, just go watch any other video I have with a Ford. We're going to just pop this top off, take all the guts out, put it in the ultrasonic for a while, put everything back together with our new components, and get it back on the truck. Alright, I just popped the float ball out of the way, and dadgum, there's your problem. Power valve time. Even though this thing moved, I'd put $100 on the fact that it's blown. I'm going to find out real fast. Yep, it's blown. So here's how you can tell. See how that diaphragm is wet? If that is wet, that means fuel is getting through the power valve, which it should not be able to, which means it is blown. That should be totally dry, so if you ever have power valve issues, you can just open this cover up, and if you see moisture in here, she's junk. Also, if you can't very, very, very freely move it, it's junk. How are things going over here, sir?
Things are going really great thanks to this bend pack lift. Honestly, this would have been a nightmare on this specific engine.
It really
would
would have.
Go in from the top, simply because the headers go over the spark plugs and just completely hide them from the top side of the engine bay.
Holy cow.
So being able to get at them from under here, really great.
I'm kind of liking this Y block.
I am too. Like,
It's just so simple.
I understand that they're not real powerhouses, but
I don't want a powerhouse in a truck. If I want a powerhouse, I'll build a 302 or a 351.
yeah.
But yeah, this is just a perfect cruiser.
So hopefully we'll have these plugs and wires wrapped up within the hour. We got the do-it-yourself cut into length kit, so that'll take up a little extra time.
So this is what we were talking about by the plugs being loomed to the back of the block. There's blocks right there, in which I can't see this one, but that block has all of the plugs, wires going through it. I'm sure over time that wears out and those start grounding out to each other. And this is what we're talking about by this truck having a new clutch. That sucker's looking real nice. Get away for that. Carb soup. Oh,
Yeah.
what you got there, bud?
I got 4 wires.
Is that the spaghetti noodles to go in the carb soup?
No. I started rubbing some of this goo away, which I thought was just electrical tape, and I got down to the braided core of the spark plug wire. This is the layer just outside of the wire itself.
Dude, these are junk.
Yeah, this is not an insulator.
How did this run?
Yeah, it's a wonder this thing ran at all.
And nevertheless that decent.
It did. It ran really good.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
All things considered.
Yeah.
You know, it still ran like crap.
And not only was it no plug wires and a dirty carb, but I'm sure the rings were just one piece.
Yeah, because we just noticed after this oil change, I went to spin it over by hand to find top dead center on cylinder number 1. I couldn't spin it with the fan anymore. So we picked up spark and we picked up compression.
You could tell when we first fired it off in part 1, it was like a thump, 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 thump. Instead of dropping cylinders, it was picking them up, which is usually a spark issue.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a huge difference. So what the ultrasonic cleaner does is it makes a very, very high frequency vibration and causes cavitation in the liquid. And when liquid cavitates, it forms air bubbles. Well, those air bubbles are made basically out of nothing. There's not air induced into the system, so that air bubble naturally collapses. And when it collapses, it makes an explosion, an implosion actually. And when that implosion occurs, it causes disruption in the material around it, which will pull bits of metal, or bits of crap in this case, is being pulled off and discarded, which is why you can see the plume of dirt just rising away. So there's a little science for you about how ultrasonic cleaners use cavitation to clean parts. And the reason we use ultrasonic cleaners for these is because they get to absolutely 100% of the carburetor. Long passages and stuff that you could never ever clean with any other device will be cleaned with an ultrasonic. So there's a bit of science for you about why we use an ultrasonic cleaner for carburetors. This is what comes out. Absolute cleanliness. But of course, as soon as you pull it out of this bucket of hot rinse water, you take a air line and high compression air and blow every single orifice out. There we go. Alright, I will now take this guy and blow through him with some brake clean since we don't have the air compressor hooked up. Put it all back together and we'll be good to go. Ta-da! A totally rebuilt Autolite 2100. Let's give her a go. Well, that's done. How's this going?
I'm just about done making all my plug wires. I got them routed just how I want them, under the headers, behind the block, using some of the old clamps, but new retainers. So
these look really good.
They tucked in a lot nicer than I expected. This is my second time doing cut-to-length plug wires, and I remember why I don't do them anymore. If you want it to look nice, this is the way to go. If you're just trying to make something run and it's not about looks, then just get the generic set from the auto parts store. But these turned out really, really good. I'm very impressed. I hope I got them in the right order. I triple checked. So I believe in past me. I think I did it right.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
Finish up these last two in a coil wire, slap this sucker on and hit the key, and then go to bed. Because it's like midnight already.
It is. Oh, man.
That went quick.
It really did.
Okay. New fuel filter, rebuilt carburetor, all new spark plug wires. Let's see how this thing runs. Hit the clickety-clackety, sir. I will tap our carburetor because regardless of rebuild or not, carburetors like to stick once in a while. You know, when they're fully updated. Hey, there she goes. Hit it! Hell yeah, man. She's a runner. That's a good carb. She's good to go.
Yeah, sounds good. Might need just a little more squirt on the accelerator pump.
Yeah, I think we need to move that rod I got in the wrong spot. That's idling with no choke. And it's not even warm yet.
It's not smoking too much.
Hell yeah, dude.
Wow.
That is very, very impressive.
I know we started this video with how to keep your revival on the road, but this is still it really gets you.
Yeah.
30 hours. 30 hours ago, this was dead.
Yeah. That's like seriously record time for this channel. Usually it's about 30 weeks or 3 months or 30 days. And here we have a truck I would confidently drive around the block if it had brakes.
Yeah. I'm excited to get the brakes done and just take it for a drive.
Oh, dude.
Because so far it's been just awesome.
I think for tonight, that is an absolute success. Let's go get some McDonald's.
I like that plan.
Day 2. You ready? We went down to O'Reilly's this morning and they had every single part we needed for the brakes in stock.
I was kind of amazed. I was going through their website, just like filling my cart, seeing what they had. Literally everything except for a couple of the rubber lines were in stock, and the rubber lines were, oh, they'll be here by 3:30.
Yeah.
So
For a 1964 Ford. I was like, there's no way.
kind of amazing.
There's no way in hell they have a single piece in stock.
Everybody seems to have parts for these. The fact that they had everything for this and it was on the shelf is spectacular.
All right, let's do it. Let's pop some tires off, start doing some brakes, and drive this thing around this afternoon.
This brake works really, really good.
Whoa.
That one might be okay. Listen, you. How did I just go all the way back? Yep.
Adjuster cables are still there, so.
Yay.
She is pretty rusty in there, though. Wow.
That'll buff out.
Here's how you strip drum brakes in seconds. Got it. Adjuster cable's gone. Adjuster cable's broke. Springs are off. A lot of people say they don't like drum brakes. A lot of people say they don't like drum brakes. I actually prefer working on these over discs. These are adjustable and forgiving, and they work great. You just have to maintain them. I have a few more moving parts. Done. Lefty tighty, righty loosey. Ready? Lefty? Correcty.
Niner.
Niner. Did I hear a niner in there?
You did. Okay, well, these are coming apart oddly well. The hardware was rough, to say the least, but I think a lot of it is reusable, but if we break more than a couple things.
We'll just throw it away. O'Reilly's didn't have any 1964 specific hardware in stock, but as soon as I got those drums off, I said, oh, that's just Ford hardware.
Yep.
That is the same as 77 hardware, and that they do have in stock, so we'll go grab that and have all new hardware, wheel cylinders, the goods.
I'm ready.
That was
Ejecto-Cielo.
incredibly easy.
All right. Yeah, I'd say that might have leaked.
We're ready to start taking our front brakes apart. We have the rears all cleaned up and ready to go. If you're ever doing your own drum brakes, it's pretty easy. Just come through with a wire wheel, knock all the loose stuff off, and clean it up. And then go in and clean this point where the springs sit, these 6 slide points, and this hole so you get your new wheel cylinder in. Then I like to come in and clean this hub right here too, so that your drum doesn't get stuck on there anymore. There she is.
Pardon.
Get these cleaned up, go get ourselves some new parts, slap them on there, and take this thing for a drive already.
This thing is painfully easy to work on.
Oh my god.
Like every
so
time
simple.
I think it's gonna give us a fit, like brakes, wheel cylinders might not come off. We're gonna strip those bolts. They're not, because they're a half-inch head. It's just everything from the 90s that's always fought me. Could have just done this. Same thing, but older.
Alright, we got all of our parts. Angus just put our new wheel cylinder on the back left. I've gone ahead and Annie sees all of those points we cleaned up, as well as a little here and just a little between each spot, so that we never have to deal with rusted brake drums on this truck again.
Remember how I said only use the dab? He didn't.
Hey, I paid for the whole can. I'm going to use the whole can.
That's the spirit.
So before we drive this, we need to replace these rubber brake lines right here. These like to swell internally, and they will allow fluid through, but not back. They also have the tendency to explode, and then you lose all of your brakes, so that's never a good time. Safety is something you do not want to screw around with. Do your brakes right. So we're going to replace all 3 rubber hoses, 2 up front, 1 in the rear. And with that, we're going to pray that I can get this to spin without shearing the end of this hose off. And then we're going to replace a 10-foot section of line that I really don't want to do. Alrighty. We've got all new drum brakes and hardware inside of these rear drums. We're going to go ahead and clean the drums themselves up and then get these adjusted. The fronts have all new hardware and shoes as well. We're currently about to replace the bearing races, replace the wheel seals, and grease up some bearings and put this thing together.
Can you guess what I'm doing?
Playing with goo.
You're right.
Got our new bearing races pounded into the drums. Everything's good to go up here. The only problem is that we only were able to get one of the correct wheel seals because I forgot to order two, and we thought we could have used a different one, but it was totally different. We thought we could use an old one, but they were totally junk. So we'll have to wait until tomorrow morning when we can get the proper wheel seals to finish up this last corner. But for the rest of this, we're just gonna put everything back together. Pretty standard stuff right here. Ever so gently. That's one totally redone brake system for this single corner.
Yay!
All right, there's new wheel bearings and brakes for the front right.
Sweet. One more to go in the morning when we get the part, and
Bleed the brakes, go for a drive.
zing. Morning.
Morning, sir. Ready for day,
3?
ready for Saturday?
Saturday, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Angus has got new plates for this thing. He's throwing those on now. The truck is legal for the road. We just have to get it ready for the road, which means we have to wait for O'Reilly's to get that seal in, and a new thermostat and all the gaskets associated with that. And then we have to figure out a charging system and bleed the brakes, and we are good to go. Identifying a GM alternator is really easy. Just Google how to identify your GM alternator, and then go through this list and see which one it looks like. This was the first of the internally regulated alternators, as you can see. And if you listen to the bearing in the top of this thing, she's totally junk. Parts!
Parts! Where's John when you need him?
Yeah. We've got the last parts we need to get this sucker going for today's video. We're going to go ahead and put all these on. That is a dimmer switch for the floor, the wheel seal, and an alternator. Let's do it. Ta-da!
Sweet. That's
All
4
right.
corners done.
Hell yeah. All new wheel bearings up front. Everything's fully greased. All new brakes in all 4 corners.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and bleed these suckers. Over here I got our new alternator on. Just gonna need some alignment done in time, but I think it'll be okay for now. So on the theme of getting a car that has been sitting for years, running and driving back on the road reliably, one of the most important things that people often overlook is this thermostat. This thing can seize and stay closed, as you've seen before in many of our videos, and then your engine is gonna run at the temperature of the sun, and that's not good for it. So go ahead, pop your thermostat off, clean up your housing, clean up your intake, and replace that gasket in between, get a new thermostat, and it's just one less thing to worry about. Okay, and with that, our brakes are done. How's the pedal feel, sir?
It feels pretty good. We got a little more adjusting to do on the shoes to get them right off the drums, but after that, I think they'll be good to go.
Sweet, let's do it.
Good. Let me out. It smells like gas.
We want to run these fine folks through how you're adjusting these drum brakes.
So, essentially when it comes to drums, there's an adjuster usually on the bottom of the drum itself, and that just spreads out the bottom of the shoes to get it close to contacting to reduce your pedal movement. So what we're doing here is I'm taking this flathead screwdriver, sticking it through the access port, and expanding that, well, it's an expander. What Kevin's doing by turning the wheel is we're seeing how much it's contacting, and you can hear it rubbing on the shoes in there. I'm moving until I can't move it side to side without it catching. Just a little bit more and I think we'll be good. Yep, I'd say that's good. That's better than it was. I had a lot of pedal travel when we bled the brakes. For road use, I want to have most of my pedal for braking. So, is our first one done. We'll do the next 3, try the brakes again, make sure they're good, and hopefully
Go for a drive.
go for a cruise.
And hope there's no electrical sparks in the cab.
Yeah.
We'll be going for a boom.
We should probably take a gander at where that's coming from first.
That's pretty bad smelling.
Yeah, it smells like old gas. We did find one problem while I was up in the air. Reeked of gasoline, so we moved the seat, and it's got a little rust along the bottom of the seam, so it's seeping out.
Have to buy a tank, I guess.
Yeah, it's not bad enough that we couldn't take it for a quick trip around the block, but we'll need to replace that.
Let's fire it up and see if we have a charging system. Still no charging system, so something must be wired funky. thought I checked it, but I never checked it running. Give her a rev. There we go. Good. There we go, now we're charging. So in those GM alternators, they have a catch that's mechanical or something inside, but they need to see enough RPM before they will engage. If you're ever diagnosing them, make sure you give them some RPM before you call them dead. Literal perfect example, that is now a fully functional charging system. Let's go for a lap.
All right. What's what? She kind of sputters in second. The synchros are kind of worn in second too.
We need to adjust that accelerator pump linkage.
Yeah, I think you're right. Mine go.
That's a big jump from first to second. Ah, speedometer works.
No burnout.
You just gotta ram it, it's good to go. This thing runs pretty damn good. How's the highway gear?
Oh, she just putts along.
It is a highway gear, that's for sure.
We're only doing 25-ish.
Ish.
Allegedly. Still kind of pulls it.
Pulls in 4th and 30, no problem. Out. Now it's really idling nice. Yeah. Whatever was being goofy, quit being goofy, because now you let off the gas and it goes right to a perfect idle. We're probably nearing our total run time for this video. And this thing really needs cleaned and like some tires and a couple last steps to make it perfectly roadable. So maybe we'll have a part 3.
I think that's a pretty solid bet.
Yeah, I think so too.
We did it.
We did it.
It runs, it drives. It sounds like
A big grain truck.
Yeah, it does sound like a grain truck.
So there you go. That is part 2 of the 64 F100 Revival, where we took this truck from revival status out in the field and put it on the road for the first time in 9 years. At this point, Angus is going to start driving this and working out the kinks, and we'll be back in a couple weeks to clean this thing up, put some tires on it, and fix whatever else we find in that time. So make sure you subscribe to see part 3 of the 64 F100 Revival right here on Junkyard Digs. And while you're at it, make sure you subscribe to all of our friends: Junkyard Garage, Golden Rust or Bust, Junkyard Mook, Thunderhead 289, McCool, Classic Mustangs 429, Deboss Garage, Fire Script Garage, Cars and Cameras, the whole gang. We'll see you next week right here on Junkyard Digs. Peace.